Alright, how's it going, everyone? This is Anon. None of this is financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Alright, so we need to get everything rolling, turn on everything. Here we go. My wife just texted me a picture. We did something interesting while we're waiting for people to start coming in. I was at work and I got a phone call from one of our guys, and he was like, we found, this cat. I was like, okay. And they're like, what should we do with it? I'm like, so I came out there, and this thing had been, out there in the wild for a while, but I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can go grab a cage, and then we can bring it to like animal control. And what's up, man? What's up, Dirty? I was telling the story about how we got a new animal. I went out to, I got a phone call basically saying that they found this cat. Thing was in rough shape. It's real skinny. It got trapped somewhere at one of our job sites. And I sent a picture to my wife. I was like, what kind of animal control things? And she was like, I want a cat. I'm like, oh, God. So I now have a cat. Never had a cat before in my life, but now there's one in our house. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go with our dog. So we, over the last 2 days have been, slowly introducing them to each other. Cat doesn't care. The dog doesn't care. They just, looked at each other. My dog sniffs the cat runs away, and that's it. I'm like, okay. So we're still trying to pick out a name, but I guess I have a cat now. Never thought. I mean, it's a nice cat. Very friendly. I think just happy for being rescued because she was trapped. I don't know how many days she was there. She was real skinny, but we've gotten her fed, and I think it's a she. I don't know how to really tell, to be honest. We have to bring it to the vet, but yeah. So I guess I have a new animal right now. How's everybody doing? I see Dirty in here. Who else is in here with us? This is our live stream. If it's a boy, name it Gator. Gator don't play. P-Funk. I don't know, my wife likes Luna. My son wanted to call it Ray because he's been watching Star Wars. My daughter likes Cece. They're like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to call it Kitty. What's up, Greg? What's up, awesomeness? How are you? Gator don't play. When's the reverse moon? Yeah, what's up, Rothium? How are you, bud? Well, I mean, you kind of see we had this nice down channel, and it kind of looks like we're flattening out. We may have some consolidation going into earnings. I know basically we talked about the 110, which is right at the bottom of this thing. I need to probably, can I make that a little bit smaller down without that 110 area? I'd love to pick up some shares there if it's going to bounce off that. But this earnings is going to kind of be the, we got to figure out what's going on with this company. I want to see what their cash flow looks like. But you're up on your GOEV calls. There you go. I know you've been eyeing them. What's up, Hustle? How are you, bud? You're up 40 cents on each one. That's pretty good. I made a good amount on my boil. I actually... how are all the FTDs looking on BBBY? So I think we have to figure out, number one, I know it's still on Reg Show, because I've talked to people about this, and I'm like, okay, in my opinion, I think BBBY is going through dilution right now. And I'll kind of show you real quick why I think that, what my thesis is. So this is the day they announced that the filing, had just came out the week before, right? It was like on this day, I think, right? This is the Monday. It shot up, and then it just got completely whacked down, right? And so it's been bleeding for how many days is this now? So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We'll just say 15 days. It was basically just in this downtrend. And now it's starting to consolidate and kind of level out in this area right here around like 150. So my thought is this. I think what happened was they at least are going through the preferred shares right now. It doesn't necessarily mean the warrants have been touched at all. I just think that, we're basically down close to 65-70% from basically when they announced dilution. So this could either be one of two things. If it's not dilution, then this is basically the institutions that still had shares bleeding them off, and they're just taking a loss on it. Or it's dilution, which means that there's going to be a higher shares outstanding. That's my opinion. That's where I think we're at, because we are not going to know anything until they announce either a 13G or the next filing that comes up, and they have to like update the shares outstanding. So, there's not really been anything. We know that the bond payers are getting paid though, which means that I think that's where they're getting the money from dilution. Like that, I mean, that makes sense to me. The bonds are going up on this, and the stock price is going down. That's usually a key sign for dilution. So. The FTDs at that point would be starting to get reset if that happens. So will it spike again? Probably. I think at some point it will. I mean, it just all depends at this point right now on how much dilution there is. And, if it isn't dilution, then is this just all the institutions basically selling off their shares, which is not a good sign either, because at that point, you're only going to have retail investors, and they're going to have to lock back up. Let's take a look here real quick. So if we go here to insiders, right? So insiders only own 8% of the float, and the float was basically 117 million, right? So if you take that, it should equate to about 10 million shares. Let's see. 117. We'll do the 16. We'll just do what Fintel says, right? Or it says that'd be 37942. Then we're going to take 0.08. Oh, is it 0.83? So that's where you get your 10 million shares. So I just want to double check that, right? So let's go say this is a decent number to go off of. So that would give you a float of about 106, right? So how much do institutions own? As of this filing, institutional owners owned 58 million long is what they're saying. Now, granted, some people could have sold since this 13F came out. We don't know. Some people could have added, but it's, not a super good fundamental. Like, that means that at this point, let's see, how much is that? Pull up my calculator again. So if you had 106 and you minused out the 58, assuming that everyone's holding, that leaves 48 million left, right, for retail. Now, I know there's been a push for DRS, but, we'll see. Just taking a look here. The lower the stock price is, the more they're going to actually have, as far as like the lower the price, the more power the retail has, unless it's dilution, in which case you're basically just treading water, because essentially what's happening is as you're buying all those shares, they're adding shares to the float, which need to get eventually locked up. So this may take a lot longer if to quote unquote squeeze it than people are realizing. So you're basically like swimming upstream, and you're wondering why you're not going anywhere. That would be a key sign of dilution, which I kind of showed you on the chart. Like, retail's buying during this time. There is volume. The stock market wasn't going down this entire time, so it's not just algo selling it. Short interest, you can take a look and see how much it's gone up, but I don't think it's gone up enough to drop the stock 65%. Okay, so let's take a look at the overview. They are saying that the live short interest, their estimate is 76. This is up from 65 million. Now, this can be one of two reasons why. If your shares outstanding have been adding, but we just haven't updated it, that would explain why the short interest is higher, and why at this point right now, everyone else is sitting there going, why is there 76 million shares shorted, and when there's only what did we say it was? What was the number on here? When there's only 48 million left for retail, right? That doesn't make any sense. Except for if you think about this, if they added, let's say they added 90 million shares, right, of dilution. So all of a sudden you went from 106 to 196. Oops. My keyboard's acting funny. Hold on. Must be running out of batteries or something. Let's say it's 196, right? And you now all of a sudden had retail, or actually, let's see. You minus 58 million, right, for the institutions. That would leave you 138 million, right? So if you now all of a sudden took 76.16 divided by, what do we say, 138? That'd be about 55% short interest. That's a little more, it's not as crazy, right, than it being over 100% shorted. So that's why I think it's dilution, and that's why I know a lot of people are going, oh, it can't be. But it can, because they already filed it. They already said that as long as they sign the 242B5 form, the SEC form, they don't have to announce anything else until the 13G. So I'm just saying, like, this makes more sense to me than basically 30 million more than the available float. You know, if you look, let's look at the live short interest. Short interest right now has dropped from 300 something percent a couple weeks ago down to, so you remember here it was like 300%. It's dropped from 300 down to basically 110. Like, that's significantly lower, which means that there's more liquidity on it. So there, that's my thesis, is that BBBY is going through dilution. Retail is just, anytime they hear that, they go, no, it can't be, and they're shooting it down. But that's what I'm saying. This makes, what my numbers makes sense to me more than they're 30 million over, and all of a sudden this thing's like 150% shorted, and nobody's blinking an eye. I don't think that's the case. I think it's dilution. There's more liquidity, so. All right, let's see. Catch up on the chat. You want me to look at BG, Berkshire Gray. Let's take a look at this thing. Let's go through all the ones for you. GRY. Okay, they are an AI robotics company. Oh, is this one of the ones that they actually make the machines that move around warehouses? Is that the one, Hustle? Let me know if I'm close on that one. Hold on. What was this? So they do have warrants as well. Yes, okay. 220 million shares outstanding. Is this, I'm guessing it's not a squeeze stock though, right? Let's take a look. 6 million shares shorted out of 200 and, I mean, looks like they had that one huge day. Was that like an earnings beat or something? What was that? Let's see. PEGY. All right, let's take a look. What was up with this day? There's a gap here. Why isn't Gap Detector picking up any of this stuff? I'll try running it again. Hold on. Oh, it's because I'm on the wrong chart. Hold on. I'm at the wrong one. Hold on. Put it on the daily. It's still not doing it. What's going on with this thing? Inputs. I don't know. Change to 1. Will that help? It's weird that this thing's not catching it, but there is a gap here up at $8. That's all been pretty. There was a gap here, but that filled. Looks like they filled this gap here. So there's still a gap up here at $8, right? Like this. That's never gotten back over there. So the gap would be roughly from like 845 to like 810. So that's where you go. So let's take a look at their stuff. So they do have warrants, right? They've got, it looks like 40 million in warrants, and they also have a equity line, which is the gray. It looks though like they need some cash. They were burning 30 million last quarter, and it looks like, yeah, they're running out of cash. So the question is, they've got these July warrants here, 25 million of them at 167. It looks like they're still active, right? And these are the pipe warrants up at 11, but this is right now an area of concern to me, which is you've got these 167, you're sitting there at 121, and they need cash. You've got an equity line that you can borrow against, I guess, but I mean, I think they're going to probably either try to unlock these warrants, and maybe that's what, I mean, they could have, when did that run happen? Let's take a look. That run happened on February 8th. So could they have unlocked these warrants when it was above that, you know, that price, and that's the reason why you're bleeding off here? Right, because you got over 167 basically on this up day. Basically, now, was it basically just these warrants that were converted, or is it like, So, it may be a good long-term play. I'd like to see their cash burn come down. I haven't looked at their you know, it's probably a good idea. It's just in these, like, if they get a contract, they'll just probably shoot through the roof. But until they have, like, you know, just reading through this. I mean, you had 77 million in cash, right? You had only 7 million in receivables. Inventory grew during that time, but these deferred are still there, prepaid expenses. But liabilities, it looks like you've grown them. Or not, sorry, you've shrank against the year before, but at the same time, your accounts payable went up. Your accrued expenses went down, which is good, but contract liabilities also went down, but they increased their current liabilities, right? No, I guess they dropped them technically, yeah. So the immediate right here that I'm looking at, you still have a positive shareholder equity, but I'm worried about their cash position because it seems like they're using a lot of cash. And is it saying the revenue shrunk? No, it grew. Revenue grew. Just not a huge amount in this last quarter. So that's part of the problem. There's their Class A shares. They will get some proceeds from the exercise of the warrants. But I'm not like jumping for joy for this one. Let's just see how they look as far as like what worries me is their cash position right now. It looks like they covered most of these FTDs here on this, one day of the spike. They're not on threshold. The short interest has grown, but it's not like huge at this point right now. So maybe a longer term play. That's what I'd say. Let me go back up and see where we're at. Okay. TRKA, right? TRKA. Isn't this the one with the Jeffries was like, they're talking to Jeffries about restructuring their finance? Let's take a look. It's got a better squeeze score. Utilization should be pretty high right now. Yep. Cost of borrow is going up. Shares on loans probably shooting through the roof. But isn't this the one they canceled their... Right, they canceled their ATM, but at the same time, yeah, they withdrew these, right? It was like Blue something was one of the groups. Withdrew their They've only been cash flow though for 1 quarter, I think, is what I remember, right? And they got about 41 million in cash. All right, so 41 million in cash, but they do have March warrants. Wait a second, what are these? So they just registered these. And look who owns them. Alto, they're the ones that are scoring over GNS. Hudson Bay, Full Ratchet. So the floor price is 25 a share. So they're going to basically be diluting on this with about 33 million shares. So these things just got registered, it looks like. So that's enough to probably reset all the short interest, is my guess. Let's take a look. The cost to borrow is not that high. I would have expected it to have been higher based off of like $35 million, and they're getting access to $33 million. How many FT is it on threshold? Yeah, it just got on threshold. So they failed to deliver 7.2 million in a single day. That's pretty high. But that's also, you've seen, it looks like they've been covering since then. So if this is true, they're sending the stock price higher, right? It's 49 cents right now. So this looks like they would have been covering during this time period right here, right? So you went here from 24 cents up to hit the high of what, 59 today. So they could have been covering some there. And it looks like if this dilution is going to go through, it's not registered yet, right? They're working with Jeffries. But they withdrew the old one, but this one's new, right? No, that's 22. So that was a year old. This is what they pulled, I think, right? They pulled the convertibles and the I think they withdrew these two, right? These are the two of dilution they pulled. So if they did pull those two, it's just a matter now of yeah, that makes a little more sense. Okay. So those were one of the ones that they must have just pulled, but they're working with Jeffries. So it will probably run, my guess would be this, it would probably run until eventually they work out a deal with Jeffries, and at that point they're going to probably raise some cash. Yeah, I saw the two withdrawals. Oops, right here. So they withdrew these two on the 17th. Today is now March 2nd. So if we pull up TRKA here, you got this gap here, but I wouldn't be shocked to see this fill. And then at some point it could go higher in the meantime until eventually they work out something with Jeffries. And then once they work out something with Jeffries, it's probably going to fall back down. Overall, though, they're in a better spot as far as like they still have like, what was it, 40 something million in cash was the estimate right now. It's about like 40, almost 42 million in cash. Technically, they're cash flow positive as of last quarter. We don't know what's going to be for this quarter, but it's better than some of the other ones I've seen. Let's just pull up TRKA here just to double check some of the stuff. You think $1 before May, because if not, they'll be uncompliant and have to do a reverse split. How long have they been under $1 now? Let's see. Dollar was right here. So they had one day that it was over. Just pull up $1 real fast. Come on. That's close enough. Just put that out here. So that's where they've got to get to, right? And they've been under since, oof. Yeah, they're getting a little dangerously close to probably having to like do something. It all just depends if this reset it right here on this candle, but I think you have to be over for like 10 days. Is that what we said, Dirty? Is that what we read basically? Okay, TRKA's been offered to be bought at Here, let's do this. 130. So here's the other line. Except for we're going to make this one a different color. Okay, so there's an offer on the table to be bought out at those. So, I will say with the filings being withdrawn, it can definitely move up, and that's probably their goal, is to get the stock up enough. But if they're working with Jeffries, I would think at this point right now, there's going to be dilution on the table at some point again. In the intermediate, though, I imagine that they fill this gap here at 64 cents. From there, we'll have to kind of see, but like these things typically run real fast and quick, so that's my only concern. Just see. Tighten it up a little bit. I think let's put 2 and 2. Probably move it down a little bit. I mean, it's hitting this top right here. It broke through the top and came back down. I think DZ and I were talking about this. And, I mean, to me, that looks like it basically tried to go up and over, and it landed right on that. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. It could definitely fill this gap here, though. So they should resplit like every ticker on the market right now and announce they're investigating naked shorts. I mean, they should, if they believe it actually happened to them, but they have to come out, in with proof. So that would be going to like a share Intel or something like that and saying, hey, listen, why don't you take a look at what's going on with us? It was a smaller float, though, wasn't it? It's only like, excuse me, it's like 53 million. Not a huge amount of institutional ownership, but it looks like these are all kind of like smaller funds that own them, which is interesting. Like, are these guys in and out kind of players? Are they long-term investors? That's something to look at. But this is one of the ones that's in a better spot. As long as those filings are, in the meantime, those filings are pulled, is a shot to move up. So it's just, you got to be careful because these things typically go pretty fast and hard, and then they fizzle out as soon as there's mention of dilution again. So I would keep an eye on seeing if this gap fills. That's the, like, in the near future, probably what we'll do. Because I would imagine there's probably a liquidity layer they want to see there. You're saying insiders own over 50%? Let's see. Insiders, TRKA, own. Well, that doesn't look right. They're saying insiders own 177 million shares of a 67 million shares outstanding. They must have Class B. That's the only explanation for that, is there must be some sort of like Class B shares. Let's take a look. So they've got 385 million shares authorized. 225 issued, respectively. There are Class C shares. How does that work out, Hon? Okay. So they have... I don't think this is the right number. I don't think Fitel's got the right number. There's no way. So if we do this, I'm just curious. If we go to shorts, US, Troco's up there. Right, they've got a high squeeze score. What is this T? Sort of key at the bottom. Where's your key? T indicates that the company is on reg show. Okay. So the company's on reg show. They're saying that the short float is 43 million. What does Dilution Tracker have? They have... The official report was 12 million shares. That doesn't sound right either. So what do they have for their shares outstanding? They've got 67 million as well. Something's not right here. Why don't they have what's in the filings? This is saying they have 225 million. Where are they getting 67 million from? Is this the wrong? This is the wrong stock. That's why I'm like, how come nobody? How about nobody told me? Why didn't you guys call it out? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, finally one of you was like, "Hey, dummy, wrong one." All right, so that's the ones there. Let's take a look here. Class A. Okay, shares outstanding. That makes a lot more sense. Now, here's the thing, though, right? So why was it here where they're going, there's 177 million shares insider? That's what we need to figure out. Why does it think it's that high when the shares outstanding isn't even that high? They have to have that number wrong. There's no way. Does it count the warrants? Okay, so let's see. Derivative liabilities, financing warrants. Yeah, but I thought those got pulled. Isn't that what you guys told me? They pulled both the... Diluted weight average number of common shares outstanding as of September 2022. Okay, so they were adding in these convertibles. Oh, what's up, okay? Yeah, I was gonna say I do streams usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So here's the thing, right? Are they counting the? I think Fintel must have something wrong because this number doesn't make sense. So if they pulled those convertibles and this was somehow calculating them, then this number is incorrect. So we don't actually know what the. Let's do this. Let's see if we can get a better insiders. Let's see if we get another look at this. All right. So he's holding 10 million shares by himself. No, it's saying he owns 40. Robert DiPaolo or whatever. DiPaolo. So these two guys by themselves own. Is that right? All right, so let's do this. Assuming that Robert DiPaolo has not sold, which I don't see any sells on here, let's add up these two. These two guys own basically the entire float by themselves, right? According to shares outstanding 67 million. Those two guys by themselves own 76 million. There's something's not right here. Oh, it's that stupid articles. Let's see. Oh, it was the percentage? Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay. I'm tired. Let's see. TRKA insiders. That can't be right. So for here, if we go to insiders, they own it says 41 million and 10. Oh, I added these two instead of these two. Sorry. Nope. Yep, you're right. Let me do the right ones. 4108 plus 10.6. So it's 51 million of, what was it, 67? What was it? 67. Yeah, 67 million. I mean, I don't see any sell orders, right? They have to register if they were going to sell. So if these two guys are right, then we have 67.83 minus 51.68. That means there's only a float basically of 16 million on TRKA. So if that is correct, then that's a very small float. But like I said, with them working with Jeffries, is that going to go higher? Are they going to dilute to raise some cash? They don't, I guess, need it per se, but what was the cash burn on them? They were cash flow positive the last quarter. So what did they burn before that? They've had historically decent cash. They raised a bunch, it looks like, here, though, right? Let's look down here. That's 50 million. Yeah, so, but here's the thing. So when you get a float, right, when you get just the regular float, it should be your shares outstanding, which in this case is, what do we say, 67? Right, 67, oops, here, 67. And then you would minus insider shares because insider shares are typically restricted. So you can only sell at certain times. And if you go to insiders, I don't see any sells. Right? These are all buys. All buys. All buys. There's even more buys here. Not a huge amount, but I mean, you would take these two numbers, add them together, which is 58 million, and then you would subtract, and you have 16 million left for the. That's how you would do it. Now, and you've got people owning it here. Not a huge amount, but I mean, like, if we tallied all those up, I bet you that's at least. That's 5. Let's call that, like, with the leftovers there, let's call it 8. I mean, this thing should be pretty illiquid. Typically, Jefferies does deals where they raise money, and typically that's through dilution. It doesn't have to be, but for the most part, whenever I see Jefferies were the ones that did GameStop's dilution. So some guy on StockTwits bought 10% of the company. I mean, is that actual, like, there's no way. I guess at these prices, if you were really in on it. I mean, it can go over $1 if that's true. I mean, like, it's a very small float. Now, here's the thing. Dilution trackers usually been pretty good about this thing, and they're saying that the float is only 53 million, which they're saying is either the insiders must have sold, or some of these numbers aren't right that we're getting. I don't like the fact that every single place that we're looking at, like here, here, and here, 3 different sites have 3 different, like, numbers for the float. It usually isn't a good thing. Your float should be pretty easy to, like, actually calculate, and everyone's giving a different answer. So they're saying it's 53 million, which means insiders don't hold as many as what they're saying. On this one, it's saying 30 or 29.86 million for the free float. That's with institutions as well, but and then here, what do we say for owners? Institutional owners own 10 million shares by themselves as of the last filing. Now, they could have sold since then, but, you know, something's off on this. Where's the poop? Where's the poop? If you guys don't know the expression, anyone that's new, it's when something just doesn't, something's off. And, you know, it's like when my kid, who's in diapers, whenever I see him, like, kind of like squatting in the corner, I'm like, kid's pooping. Where's the poop? Then you smell it. Something smells here. I don't know what it is. Something's off. 3 different places, all 3 different floats. Just, something's not right with this. I mean, it's having a great day. I do think that gap will fill, but, like, how do you get that high a volume in a day with such a low float? I mean, I can give you multiple answers. People are buying and selling a lot. People find these high volumes. So once it goes over a certain, like, threshold for volume on something that's like a really small cap like this, typically what ends up happening is you see a ton of momentum traders and day traders coming in, and they're basically scalping and based off candlesticks. It's the same thing that happened to Ethereum. How did a stock that only had, you know, like 43 million shares trade over 260 million, right? Same thing. So, what's up, Mark? How are you? Something's just not right here. Let's do this. Let's dig into this tomorrow. I should be in the office tomorrow. So, I think we could possibly dig into this and try to find out. I want to compare this against Bloomberg. So, I'll probably ask Wizard to pull some stuff for me because I don't trust any of these numbers. I want to get real numbers and I want to find out exactly what happened and how this is working on this stock because something doesn't seem right. Like, this insider is saying they have 177 million. Ortex is saying that they've got 58 million shares. These guys are saying that the insiders barely own any of the stock. Like, something's just not right. Yeah, I would imagine TRKA's getting a ton of interest right now. It's just something's up. Yeah, I just something's. It's a lot of FCDs. They are moving up. I mean, they bounced off their 200, right? And now if they stay over their 200, then it's going to be bullish for the stock. Bought into 30 cents. Think I'm going to jump off at $1. Yeah, something's weird with this one. Let's do this. I'm going to contact the people that have Bloombergs that I'm friends with, and we're going to go ahead and kind of deep dive into what's going on here because I don't like the fact that we don't know exactly what the float is. And it just, something's weird here. Let me drink some water, hold on. Who is the holder? Holder of what? Of TRKA? That's what we're trying to figure out because I'll show you here, right? They're saying that as of the last filings, that these guys had 10 million shares, which is institutions, but it's saying on insiders. The insiders own 177 million shares, which can't be right because they don't even have that many issued out. Somebody said it could be the warrants, it could be the convertibles, but if they pulled those, then that doesn't make sense anymore. So Fintel is not, I think, the one to look at here. These guys are saying the float is 29 million. But if you look, it's saying these insiders, these two guys right here, just these two, own 58 million, or was it? What did we say it was? No, that's only. Is it 51 million? Let's see. Make sure I got my. Yeah, 51 million, right? Which means that the float would be 16 million. And so this isn't right either, based off of just what they're saying right here, which is if they own 51 million shares and there's another 10 million shares owned by Toots, that would be basically the entire thing locked up. So something's not right here. And then Dilution Tracker is saying that the float's 53 million, and so that's what we're going to need to do. The major holders of TRKA are these kind of hedge funds. And so that also makes me nervous because it's not like big institutions that are sitting here holding and accumulating. It's a bunch of players who look like they're all hedge funds. Like that's Capital Management, something Advisors. These are all hedge funds. Virtue, like UBS is a bag, but like all these top holders are all people who probably go in and out pretty often. So and they're saying the short interest is 24%. These guys, Ortex is saying it is 35 million. Like something's not right here. Yeah, there is a gap on it. So you do have a gap here. If you wanted a re-entry, it would be down here at 31 cents. That's where the gap fills. And then on this upper gap, you go to 64 cents. So you've got two gaps and you're in between them right now. And you're in an up channel. So, there could be a drawback and then push up. Yeah. I'm not going to touch this thing until I figure out what's going on with it. You guys do whatever you want to, but for me right now, I need to figure out what the actual float is, and then working with Jeffries just makes me nervous. So, for all you in it, I hope you are going to the moon, or at least 64 cents, and then, the only thing I would say is, not as financial advice, but make sure you keep it close, because I feel like this is one of those, like, do you guys remember, what was it, SST, where they were like, squeezing it, went up pretty aggressively, and then the dilution actually went through, and then boom. So yeah. So overall, though, I mean, I do like the trend it's in right now. It looks pretty healthy, and but just make sure you make money on this. Don't be one of those that the flash in the pan, everyone gets excited, and then all of a sudden you find out, oh, there was some sneaky thing that was, they did with Jeffries, and now the stock's in free fall, and all of a sudden you went from having, huge amounts of gains, and then you didn't lock them in, and then it falls. So, yeah, I mean, it all depends on what the float is, Greg. So the short interest being over 70%, I'll be honest with you, that all depends on what the float is and what they're calculating at. Like, according to Fintel at this point, the Fintel insiders would own basically over, like, it would be like double their float. So, I mean, I don't like it when nothing matches. Something's going on here. So, yeah, like, you've got 31. These guys have 53. These guys have 29 million, and then these guys have some crazy number because they didn't obviously do this right. So, like, I don't like any of this. Let me do that. I'll dig into the Bloomberg, and then we'll figure it out. Okay, what other ones were you guys looking to talk about? Looks like it's ATER the play right now. I don't know. I mean, so let's pull up ATER real quick. We'll take a look at them again. They have been in this downtrend, but it looks like they're finally kind of consolidating. We do have this gap here that would be nice to fill. I would like to see that fill right here. It seems to be, though, that at this point right now we're kind of just chopping in this range. Could we go down as far as 90 in the 90s again? Sure, like that can happen in the next couple of weeks, all depending on what the SPY and IWM and some of the other algos are doing. But I mean, you've got earnings coming up, so is earnings catalyst? Who knows? The estimate is they're going to be losing basically like a quarter a share, and they've got a revenue estimate of 53 million. That is down, I believe, from the previous quarter. If we go here and just take a look. Oh, get it. There we go. What's the last revenue? revenue was 66. So, and they're estimating 53. So that's quite a bit of a drawback on revenue for a company that's supposed to be growth and growing the revenue. So, but just for anyone that isn't familiar with this play, I drew these out because, and this is actually incorrect, so I need to probably change this around. Armis is paid, maybe what I should do is this. I'll go here. 190 for the shares and the warrants. The warrants, we believe, are at 66 cents for this one. So that's actually better than what you thought before. Because what happens is this. So at $2, they can actually they can unlock these, but they basically have to get the stock price above 66 or 266 for them to be profitable on them. Which means that this over here is the same thing. We don't know exactly. I don't know if we remember exactly what this was, but this will be another like breakdown where they paid a certain amount for the warrants. We'll say blank warrants. There we go. So they would have to get above 320 and some change, which is actually up here, to actually make their money. So maybe what I should do is this. I'll take out these ones right here and here. And then, oops. We'll throw this up here. Right. So this one here was supposed to be a gap. So let's do this. Change the color. That was a gap down, right? So that we'll just make it red. Because that was a bear gap. There's a gap here as well. Gap there. Gap here. Tiny gap here. All right. So those are our gaps right there. Then what happens then is this. If they, say, for example, beat on earnings, as they get above this line, but they can't exercise these ones until here. So say, for example, we chop around, maybe we start heading up a little bit. We get above this $2 warrant line. They have to get to $2.66 before they're profitable. So in that case, do they have just some sort of little massive run? Maybe they're saving that for third quarter. We don't know. But this is when they're allowed to start actually messing with the warrants at this point right here. And it gives them access to, I think, what was it, 117 million, something like that? Like 117.5 million shares. So new subscriber here liked. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Mark. Your thoughts on GNS discovering the 40 million shares that they've issued? Yeah, so, I mean, that's unfortunate. Obviously, when I read the paper, I saw 11.5 million. That's how much I thought they diluted. I didn't see, though, the hidden stuff, where they're like, that's how they were able to gain access to the additional stuff. I didn't see that until the lawsuit. And that would explain obviously the price action, what's going on. Now, did any of you guys listen to the stream that Roger held with Wes and everybody else? I caught the first half of it, but I haven't been able to listen to the rest. Did he actually discuss that? Because I think that's what, when Roger came out and said they were being naked shorted, but there was no short interest against them. I do think that's what essentially happened, was that these guys got access to those convertibles and knew that eventually they were just going to drive down the price. So that could be the reason why they're bringing the lawsuit, and they said they knew exactly who it was. It wasn't just because they watched Share Intel. It was probably because they were watching what these, the guys that basically gave them the convertibles and had them raise the $18 million, or technically $17 million after they took their cut. I think that's what the lawsuit's all about. So I don't think it's randoms. I think it's someone that they basically got in bed with, and that's basically why they were suing them, or they're going to be suing them, or I guess they are suing them technically because the court papers are out, and they're going to try to receive damages for this. But this happens all the time in the small cap world. Like, you sign a crappy deal, and then your stock gets hammered down, and then there's probably naked shorting at times. Wait. Wow, 60 million shares, GNS shares, crazy. You're talking about the count they got. They linked retail's accounts through Upstream. How can they do that? Is that legal? I mean, it's got to be. He's working with a lawyer, so. Okay, hold on. So let's pull up GNS real quick. So did you actually listen to the stream? Because I'm very curious to see. It looks now like that gap filled, the one in the twos. So they filled the gap. I mean, at this point, that's pretty brutal what they did. It looks like it must have filled. Yeah, the gap filled, because there was a gap right here, and they must have touched it today. So you tell me, because I haven't seen the rest of it. I only saw like the first part of it, and then I was not able to finish before I got home and ate dinner and put the kids to bed. So I'll watch it probably tomorrow if I get a little bit of free time, because I'm interested in what's going on with it. But if they have 60 million and these guys only have access to, because the lawsuit, pull up the Discord real quick. Where is it? Here we go. Where's the lawsuit? Oh, come on. Where is it? You guys talk so much, I can't find it. All right. We're going to find it. We're getting there. Hold on. Yeah, we just covered TRKA, but basically what we were saying was Nice to have you, Jason. So here's the deal with TRKA. We're getting a lot of different numbers from a lot of different sources, and they don't look right. And so whenever I see something like this, and then compare it against three other sources, and every one of them has different numbers, that's not usually a good thing. So I said that we're going to research it in our Discord tomorrow. And we're going to go ahead and just say that I trust Bloomberg more than I trust Fintel, Ortex, or, this case, I think Dilution Tracker might be closer to what it is, but I want to confirm it against Bloomberg. So if you want to hang out or if you want to join the Discord, you're more than welcome to. We're going to be talking about TRKA tomorrow. We do have a TRKA channel now, so I'll probably just be talking about it in there. So if you're interested in that, I'll give you a link. Give me a second. If you do the new users, you just have to verify that you're a human. So you just have to literally click the blue button that says I'm a human. Here, there's the link to the Discord. Alto is not diluted anymore on the first run to the current float of 37.75. So, all right, the question is, GNS didn't have a lot of institutional ownership, so it's not toots that are selling. So is it just retail that's all like jumping out, or is it, I can't imagine it's all retail that's just jumping out. If they're also, you're saying, having, 60 million shares that retail was holding. So, but yeah, go ahead and look back, Jason. And I sent you that link. Jump in tomorrow with us, and we can kind of go over it all together. And I'm going to get some information from Bloomberg to back up everything. Because right now, I don't like them having nobody knows the float, and that's not a good thing. So let's figure it out tomorrow. All right, so what does Anon have against us? The accounts registered for the NFT, they discovered 40 million extra. Okay, this was on top of the I mean, that's interesting, but it's not surprising. Now, how many of them are still holding as the stock's been dropping? What's a short interest on GNS now? I'm just curious. Has it climbed? Cost to borrow is still very high. Security lending isn't as high. It's not on threshold. They don't have any FTDs. I find that hard to believe. I think they're still diluting. I know they're saying they're not, but it's just something's not right here. All of a sudden, it jumped from 9% utilization to 100. Like, something's weird. Yeah, they still have a good amount of liquidity left. Better than back in the day when they had almost none. The cost of borrow is still high, but it's gone down significantly, and that's probably because of the dilution that did occur. So, I mean, I guess it could be retail selling, but they're saying that the short interest is only 1.66 million. I live stream typically twice a week, Mark. I do Tuesdays and Thursdays. I used to do it every day, but it just got to be too much, and my wife hated me. So eventually I eventually moved it just Tuesdays and Thursdays. I figure we can cover some stuff together live, and then during the week we actually all kind of chip in and everybody helps out inside the Discord. So we try to get as many people that are interested in this, and we teach them all about all the stuff that we have. We share tools, and that's kind of the entire reason why it's called the Retail Collective. It's a bunch of retail traders all getting together. There's no ego. I just happened to be the person that was talking about ATER at the time, so they convinced me to start a YouTube channel. I don't really make any money on this, I'll be honest. I'm pretty sure I made $2 last month because nobody really watches it. Like, our typical stream is 20 of us get together. We just talk about stuff that we're looking at for plays, but we are building out. I'm working with Ellen. I don't know if he's listening still, but he's one of the guys that was helping me with the Discord bots, and we're going to try to start getting some notifications going in the future for things that are moving. We just have to figure out all the parameters, and then he's going to start programming out some bots, and then we're going to take a look at a bunch of different things and have different tiers of them eventually down the line. So we're trying to improve and trying to get everything together. We've got some really smart people like DZ and Dirty and some of these guys in here. Random. Yep, he's in here still. So yeah, I was gonna say the goal is gonna be us improving and trying to just grow as a group, try to do things better. I typically come on here just to try to find warts on plays and just see stuff that retail traders typically don't see, and that's what we're eventually going to try to do, is add filters onto our algos that eventually will say, hey, listen, this one is moving, but there are we'll have some sort of risk thing that's flagged as well, like, oh, this thing has warrants at this price, or this thing has this thing's being completely overbought at this point, and there is some possible downside. We're going to basically take a look at a lot of different indicators, start cross comparing them, and that's stuff we all share on there. So thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, but I like I said, there's a lot of people that are very smart inside the Discord, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. I recruited DZ after reading some of his DD on BBB or BBIG, and I was like, this guy's really smart, and I kind of just explained to him some of the dilution stuff, and he was like, all right, and I think he got out of that play, and he started kind of looking at different things, and great knowledge of options. He actually built his own black shoal, so I'm like, you need to join us. And I've been slowly recruiting people from all over Reddit and just different groups that I'm in, where I'm like, listen, like, you can have an impact educating retail traders. So it's just no ego, just all of us in here. I tell people all the time I'm an idiot, so yeah, hope you guys join us and hang out. Yeah, I mean, if you like research, that's what we're doing all the time in there. So we get together, we all kind of pool our resources. So I've got access to a couple of different things like Fintel, Ortex, Dilution Tracker. Some of us are really good at charting, so we all share kind of our stuff, what we're seeing. Question is, LHDX getting delisted? I don't know. I don't know that ticker, but let's take a look. HDX. So they IPO'd back in 2021. They are... Is it biotech? Let's take a look. So a single-use consumer-friendly test kit for accurate molecular testing. I didn't know that was a high-demand thing, but apparently that's their business model. they're not in good shape. I can tell you, just eyeing this right here. I don't even need to look at their balance sheet. They're out of cash right now. They were burning through 24 million in cash, and they have basically no cash left. And at this point now, you're either going to see dilution probably happen. I mean, they're not even like. You got some bigger names in on them. But oh, here you go. Notice of delisting. So let's see what they say. Yep, so notice of delisting or failure to satisfy. They have filed, what was the date on this? February 23rd. So here's the deal with delisting. Delisting, if you still hold shares in the company, they will become basically, you still have the shares. It's just not going to be traded on the main exchange. To buy and sell these shares, you'll have to go through a pink slip or OTC, the over-the-counter market, basically. So you're just basically, you have to find certain brokers who will still buy and sell these things. You're just going to get basically taken off the main exchange. So you won't have as much liquidity, but you will still own the company. So I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's a death sentence." It depends. Like sometimes you can go back and get listed again if you've done well, but a lot of times this is what happens with these companies, is they get beaten down, and then at that point, So this was a nasal swab. Okay, so they were gonna be able to do. Is the first over-the-counter home diagnostic test that can do influenza A and B, along with SARS and COVID, probably. My guess is they probably spent a lot of money getting this stuff up and running, thinking that the government was going to, continue paying for it, and all that money dried up. So, yeah. Yeah, SI has a big problem. So SI was highly linked to FTX, and unfortunately, with Silvergate, like they should have known the entire time what was going on. So you would think, obviously, this was like a pretty big company. They had pretty big ownership, but they absolutely cratered today because they said they had to file an extension because they aren't sure how bad things got with FTX. So they were basically a real bank who supported the crypto industry, but with FTX basically being tied into them so deeply, they don't know how bad their losses are. So that's why Silvergate, who once was a pretty big company, has absolutely gotten crushed, because if they're as heavily tied to FTX as everyone thinks they are, that's what's going on with these guys. So, like, technically, as a bank, you should have known how much your assets are at all times. Like, they were literally like, a pretty big bank that was supporting these like crypto things, and the fact that they can't figure out their own filings is not a good sign. So, like, for example, right, they filed a late annual filing because they said they need more time and more like information, because they don't know how bad their losses are from FTX. So that's why Silvergate's highly shorted, right? You have almost 71% of the, or 76% of the short interest, right? I bet you if we go here to Ortex, it's even higher. It's because these guys might be literally, I think they have a going concern as well. So, I mean, like you can see this is the 40% drop. And the reason for that is because they don't know how bad things are. I mean, there was only 1 buy, 7 holds, and 3 sells, and a bunch of analysts changed theirs once they found out that how deeply they were tied into FTX. So if you wanted to know why, this one's so beat down when it should have been a pretty safe company for, yeah. I mean, you can see there was a lot of volume and there was a lot of short interest that happened because people are just catching wind now, but anyone that's been following them for a while, which I kind of was keeping an eye on them after FTX kind of blew up, it's, not great. So, oh, thanks, Dirty. Appreciate it. I'll be able to buy a Tyrion share in a second when it comes back down to 97 cents. I appreciate it, bud. Let's see. Hopefully we just stay at 110, but we'll see. Let's see. Lots of C's. Yeah, I'm not touching Silvergate. Let's see what their earnings says. Their yearly. But the fact that they filed that as a bank, that's bad. Like, that's not good when the bank doesn't know how much money they lost. So, personally, for me, I'm staying away from Silvergate. I know it was much higher earlier, but and people were talking about it squeezing. It's not squeezing. People are running for the hills on this thing. So there's a reason why this thing went from basically 10% shorted all the way up to 70. Not good. So, any other tickers you guys want to look at, or it's about 11:40. See if my wife's still awake. Go bother her. See if we can watch a show together or something. All right, I'll shut it down here. You guys have a great evening and weekend, and I'll be on tomorrow. We need to look into TRKA, though, because I need to find out answers for that. So for anyone that's new, we'll be in tomorrow, and yeah, I'll be on the Discord tomorrow for TRKA. So we're going to be researching it. If you want to join in, Jason, you're more than welcome. All right. You guys have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow on the Discord. All right. Take it easy.